Everybody to Principles of Marketing, Chapter 7. And here in Chapter 7, we're going to be discussing the concept of improving decisions with marketing information. That's the soup du jour. That's what we're going to be discussing here tonight. Okay, so at the end of this presentation, we will actually, at the end of this presentation, you should be able to discuss marketing information systems, MIS, the computer systems that will help you make the correct and good marketing decisions, understand the scientific approach to marketing research, cite methods for collecting secondary and primary data, understand the role of observing, questioning, and using experimental methods in marketing research, understand the challenges to interpreting marketing research data, and understand important new terms. Slide 3 here is a little bit of a mess because it's like all over the place, so let's just look at the summary overview at the bottom. There are two major elements relating to marketing information are data and marketing research. Data guides marketing strategy, and that data comes from a variety of sources. Okay, it could be external, internal, market research studies, etc. Then you have marketing research involves procedures that develop and analyze new information about a market. Many firms rely on marketing research, whether in-house or contracted, to get answers to specific questions. If you look at the main slide on top, marketing research we use the scientific method. Steps in marketing research are define the problem, analyze the situation, gather the specific information for this data, the actual problem-specific data, interpret the data, and then of course solve the problem. We move on to the next slide, chapter 4, and in this particular slide we are using the 17th edition. Now there's a lot of stuff going on over here. Marketing information system. Marketing managers may need marketing research and MIS or a combination of both to get the information they need to make decisions during any step in the marketing strategy planning process. Marketing information systems, MIS, help make this information available and accessible. Key issues: powerful intranets, the internet within the organization that ties together people. It's not available to everybody on the outside. Computer software and mobile devices like tablet computers and smartphones make it easier and less expensive for companies to gather, analyze, and access marketing information. There's an explosion of data. It's now available, and organizations collect and store more information from internal sources, external sources, and market research studies. Explosions. This explosion is referred to as big data or data sets too large and complex to work with typical database management tools that require more heavy-duty tools. All of that data may be stored in a data warehouse, a place where databases are stored so that they are available when needed. Raw data is not particularly useful to managers. Programs help convert the data into information which is usable, which can answer questions of who, what, where, and when. For example, a sales manager might pull a report that shows that last month's sales for each of her salespeople included how much they sold of each product to each major customer. That is information that could be useful. Information becomes knowledge when it helps a manager answer questions of how and why. Our sales managers may have to dig deeper than the previous report to find out why sales to Target stores in Oklahoma are down 10% last month, which will require more specific deep diving than generalized questions. As a manager gains experience, knowledge turns into wisdom, and they can better predict the future as a result of that wisdom. Information is easily accessible with intranet, a system for linking computers within the company, or a marketing manager may turn to decision support systems, otherwise known as DSS, to compute a computer program that makes it easy to obtain and use information. Two types of decision support systems are marketing dashboards, which display up-to-date things, sales, return on marketing, easy to read format like a car's dashboard, or marketing model, which is a statement of relationships among marketing variables. For example, A manager may have a model that shows how much sales will increase with an increase in advertising spending, and they're able to extrapolate from that. Is it how at what point is it worth spending more? What's too much? What's too little? Okay, we move on to slide 5. Elements of marketing information system. A good MIS stores data collected from inside and outside the company and from various marketing research studies. The data can be analyzed to guide the marketing strategy planning process. Key issues, information sources. These include internal, external, and marketing research studies. Data storages and access. This includes the data warehouse and a search engine for access. Marketing analysis. This includes decision support systems, DSS, including dashboards, marketing models, and predictive analytics. Marketing strategy, planning process, and strategy decision. The results, including marketing metrics such as profits, market share, and customer lifetime value. Results of any study feedback into the database as a future information source may be able to use for future reference. The 4 V's of dimensions of big data. We'll talk about that. Volume, there's so much data. Variety, so many formats. Veracity, not always accurate. And velocity, need to process quickly. Therefore, let's look at the summary overview at the bottom. The 4 V's reflect the challenges for information system managers in charge of storing and facilitating access to data, and opportunities for making managers who must decide what information can be stored, how quickly it could be analyzed, and how it could be utilized in marketing strategy planning. Big data refers to data sets too large and complex to work with typical database management tools. The 4 V's of big data represent the 4 major challenges big data pose. Number 1, volume refers to the quantity of data generated and stored. Number 2, there's also a wide variety of data that marketing managers are now able to collect. Not only traditional survey data, but now marketing managers can track information about customers, their visits to websites or stores, their purchases, even their social media posts. And all these things help build a robust treasure trove of information. The velocity refers to the speed at which data are generated and can be processed. And number 4, finally, there are questions about whether we can trust all this data, and that's always important, because if you can't trust it, you can't use it. Okay, skip to slide 8, summary overview. Analysis changes data to information, knowledge, and then wisdom. Data in raw form is not very useful to marketing managers, just like a beam is not useful to contractor unless he builds it into the wall. So when questions around who, what, where, and when, and how much are added, data becomes information. Answer more questions about how and why turns that information into knowledge. And finally, wisdom refers to an ability to predict the future. The marketing manager's experience turns knowledge into wisdom. Slide 9, it's a little bit complicated, so again, I'm not so keen on the way that they put it together, but here they talk about the 5 steps. We're going to go into it more in depth from the bottom, summary overview. An MIS typically makes use of regularly collected recurring information, but marketing research develops unique information to solve a new problem. Key issues, scientific method, a decision-making approach that is objective and orderly in testing ideas before accepting them. Hypotheses, educated guesses about likely causes and effects that can be measured objectively to help eliminate unnecessary risk-taking. Marketing research process, divided into 4 steps, actually 5 steps. Number 1, define the problem. The manager and the researcher determine the key decision issues requiring information. In other words, what are we attacking here? Number 2, analyzing the situation. An informal study of information that is already available in the problem area. Number 3, getting problem-specific data. The collection of data that is customized to the decision maker's unique needs. And step 4, interpreting the data, the process of getting meaning from the collected data. It's a transformation of raw data to useful information. Step number 5, solving the problem, the delivery of recommendations to the marketing manager, who is ultimately responsible for implementing those recommendations. Finally, well, down to the last 2 points here, the process may move in the step-by-step process outlined here, or as the feedback arrow shows on the top, the researchers may learn something in the process that moves back to an earlier step in the process. So they may, as they go through the research, they may say, wait a minute, I just learned something about step number 2. I could be up to step number 5 down here, but I learned something about step number 2 in my process, in my progression. The marketing manager may find that at any step, a solution might be identified. The early identification of a solution can save time and money. Good marketing research requires cooperation between researchers and marketing managers. Researchers must be sure their research focuses on real problems, otherwise they're wasting their time and money. We move now to slide number 10, defining the problem. This is the most important and often the most difficult step in the research process. Often the researcher must help the manager to flesh out the real problem facing the organization and the types of information needed to solve said problem or problems. Key issues: number 1, finding the right problem level almost solves the problem in many cases. In other words, how do we identify it? Is this an emergency? Is this a hot topic issue? In order to find the right problem, the marketing strategy planning framework can be useful. Don't confuse problems with symptoms. Symptom is not the main problem. It's an outcrop of that. Key performance indicators in marketing may be symptoms of a more fundamental problem. If somebody walks into a doctor's office with a headache, you can't just treat it with aspirin. You have to know what is causing that headache. Setting research objectives may require more understanding. The researcher and manager can develop a list of research questions that are most important. A single research project may not be adequate for answering all of the questions that may require multiple research endeavors. Slide number 11. Situation analysis is basically an informal study in the answer to the question of what information do we already have in the problem area. You don't want to necessarily recreate the wheel. Key issues: situation analysis helps educate a researcher by providing background about the unfamiliar problem areas. The situation analysis may uncover information that leads to an early identification of a solution, or it may help to determine what other types of information are really necessary. Slide 12. A situation analysis usually incorporates secondary data, which may provide the answers or at least some background relevant to the research problem. Let's talk about the key issues here. Secondary data is information that has already been collected or published. Again, stuff that's available. You don't have to recreate the wheel. It's cheap, it's available, it's easy to get. It's really not a problem at all. Excuse me. Primary data, information specifically collected to solve a current problem, costs a lot of money. We'll start our discussion with a focus on secondary data sources before moving into a discussion of primary data. Much secondary data is available. Examples of secondary data sources from inside the company might be data from the MIS, financial information from the accounting department, or reports from the field sales force. Information from outside the company might include government information, trade association studies, or information available in magazines or journal articles. Search the internet for information. Search engines may miss important databases available on the internet, and special interest discussion groups or news groups on the web share information on topics of specific interest. Government data is inexpensive and available in digital or printed form. Most countries with advanced economies have government agencies that help researchers get the data they need. Primary data may be obtained through observation or questioning, which could be very, very expensive. We will look at these sources of data in more detail next. Slide 14. Regardless of the source, it may make sense to examine secondary information before collecting more customized primary data. It's cheaper, it's available, it's less time to get. Because secondary data tends to be, again, cheaper, easy to acquire. Therefore, situation analysis yields a lot for very little. Key issues to look at. The small amount of time and money spent on reviewing secondary data may actually solve the research problem before we move on to more elaborate schemes. It can help to establish research priorities, focus the research objectives more precisely, or suggest additional issues for examination. The outcome of a situation analysis is the listing of the research questions that remain unanswered. At this point, the researcher can determine what else is needed and how to get that information. Research proposal, a plan that specifies what information will be obtained and how. The research proposal helps to keep research project on track and, of course, on budget. Slide number 15. In getting problem-specific data, marketers collect primary data that is customized to their unique needs. In most cases, researchers try to learn what customers think about a particular topic, or they try to see how they behave under certain conditions. Key issues: there are two basic methods of collecting primary data, through observation and through questioning. It can range from qualitative to quantitative research. Qualitative research seeks in-depth, open-ended responses, not yes and no answers, but why, what makes you feel that way. The researcher tries to get people to share their thoughts on a topic without giving them many directions or guidelines about what they have to say. So there's more freedom, more expression here. The depth of qualitative approach gets at the details, even if the researcher needs a lot of judgment to summarize it all. Quantitative research seeks structured responses that can be summarized into numbers, easy to publish, easy to analyze, such as percentages, averages, or other statistics. For example, a marketing researcher might calculate what percentage of respondents have tried a new product and then figure out an average score for how satisfied they were. Focus groups, very, very good way of making money in your off time, or if you don't have a job at a particular time. Great way to make money. Interesting. Go online, you can look to see which focus groups are available in your neck of the woods and take it from there. Qualitative research, again, the whys, not just the numbers. Qualitative research offers more depth, while quantitative research provides more representative samples, numbers, and objectives measures to test hypotheses. One of the most popular forms of qualitative questioning is the focus group. Key issues: focus group interview involves interviewing, for example, 6 to 10 people in an informal group setting where it's comfortable. People are more likely to respond in a more open manner. A skilled moderator, somebody asking the questions, leads the discussion, asking open-ended questions on topics of interest and taking advantage of group dynamics to pursue comments in depth, to see what kind of people are involved, how you can elicit different responses and types of people within that session. Sessions are usually videotaped, or they may be broadcast via internet or satellite. Focus group interviewing can be relatively inexpensive, and it can be conducted quickly. However, the conclusion drawn from a focus group depends on who watches it. Focus groups involve so few people as participants that they may not represent the entire target market. The 6 to 8 people are not going to necessarily represent the 6 million people that they're trying to reach. Focus groups can also be overused and mistaken for market facts. Sometimes they generate more questions than answers, and as a result, many researchers use focus groups as a preparation for more formal quantitative research utilizing a larger, scientifically selected group of respondents. Slide 17. If the collection of primary data is standardized, there are several advantages for researchers. They can help us use identical questions and response alternatives across a large representative sample of respondents. You could duplicate this. They could also summarize the information using a variety of statistics. Easy to get across. Numbers are easy to look at, easy to track. Key issues: quantitative research seeks structured responses that can be summarized into numbers, such as percentage, average, or other statistics. Fixed responses speed answering and analysis. For example, a common approach is to have consumers indicate how much they agree or disagree with a statement on a survey, similar to what you folks do when you rate me on my performance. Okay, slide 19. There are several different types of surveys. The choice of right survey depends on the research objectives and constraints such as time and money. Mail and online surveys are common and convenient, but very few people actually take them seriously, especially the ones that come in the mail. I think people are more apt to do one online if it's done in a way where it doesn't look like a spam situation. Advantages of these types of surveys include the ability to ask an extensive set of questions, convenience for the respondent and anonymity, so they don't have to feel like they're on the spot, and a greater willingness by the respondent to provide personal information. The main disadvantage is low response rate, because people are just not interested. The percentage of people contacted who complete the survey, it will also take a long time to get the results. Recently, more researchers have been delivering surveys faster online. Telephone surveys are fast and effective, but again, nobody likes the telemarketer. People hate them, actually. Researchers can gather data more quickly and prepare it for analysis faster than with mail, and there is an opportunity for the researchers to probe respondents for details. However, telephone surveys are more costly and may inconvenience respondents, and then of course may prevent you from getting the right amount of people to respond and even getting the right responses, because people may just want to tell you what you want to hear. Personal interview surveys can be in-depth and give the interviewer the chance to explain complex issues. Interviewers must be well trained to avoid biasing the respondent's answer. Consumer interviews are often done in shopping malls, retail stores, but interviews are even more expensive than telephone interviews. The in-depth in-person interviews are very, very expensive. Other methods, questioning whether there are several other options for market research, each with pluses and minuses. Questioning whether qualitative or quantitative has its limitations. Respondents sometimes give answers that they think the questioner wants to hear, which of course invalidates what you're trying to discover. With the observation method, researchers try to see or record what the subject does without influencing. And looking at video footage and seeing the little kid trying to reach the cereal, which is too high for him. So then marketers will say, okay, you got to lower the cereal aisle, got to make it eye level to the kid who's in the shopping cart. Okay, so we also look at ethnographic research, has its roots in anthropology, study of man, which studies different cultures by observing participants in their natural habitat, in their homes or at work. Again, people in different cultures, different parts of the world behave differently with respect to consumer behavior. Sometimes the best way to observe a customer is for a marketing manager to become a customer themselves. For example, marketing managers for Heinz Ketchup knew they had an opportunity they could make it easier to eat French fries while driving. There were more marketing managers sat behind a one-way mirror and watched consumers sitting in a minivan with ketchup on their fries, burgers, and chicken nuggets during a simulated driving experience. Don't try this at home, kids. It could be dangerous. They saw some people tear the corners off packets with their teeth, and others squirt ketchup in their mouth before adding fries. Insights from this research fueled development of Heinz dip and squeeze ketchup packets, which can be squeezed from one end like the traditional foil pouch, or opened by peeling back the lid for those who prefer dipping. Consumers like the new packaging, and fast food restaurants are selling more French fries out of the drive-through window as a result of that. Let's move on to slide 23. Overview. Statistical packages, easy-to-use computer programs that analyze data have made interpreting data easier. Cross-tabulation is one of the most frequently used approaches for analyzing and interpreting market research. Key issues. The first question a marketing manager must answer is your sample size truly representative of the population? 200 people that you chose for this survey, are they different enough to actually represent the different people in your marketing research project? Or are they all the same? If they're all the same, you're going to have a bias. Population is defined as the total group of interest to the research or marketing manager. Sample, a smaller group selected to represent the population. The key here is to ensure that the sample selected represents the larger population. Research results are not exact. Confidence interval is the range of either side of an estimate that is likely to contain the true population value, be plus and minus. Validity problems can destroy research. Validity is defined as the extent to which data measures what is intended to be measured. Poor interpretation can also destroy research. Problems can arise if the researcher does not understand the management problem, so the marketing manager and researcher should work together closely. Ethics involved in interpreting and presenting results. The most common ethical issues concern decisions to withhold certain information about the research, which is not good, because when you withhold information, people can't weigh in and improve things. Solving the problem. Step 5. In the last step of the research process, managers use the research results to make marketing decisions. Researchers and managers are fascinated by the interesting tidbits of information that come out from the research process. They're excited if the research reveals something that they didn't know before. Be careful with the tidbits. Don't let the tidbits become the main portion of your research findings. If research doesn't have action implications, and has little value, it suggests poor planning by the researcher and the manager. When the research process is finished, the marketing manager should be able to apply the findings in marketing strategy planning, the choice of target market, or the mix of the 4 Ps, marketing mix. If the research doesn't provide information to help guide these decisions, the company has wasted research time and money, which will never come back. And our final slide over here, summary overview. The Clean Team solves an important problem for tens of thousands of people from Ghana. They're called Ghanaians. In Ghana, millions of people in Ghana live without the sanitary benefits of an in-home toilet, which we take for granted. The Clean Team, in collaboration between Unilever Water and Sanitation for the Urban Poor and IDEO.org, set up to solve the problem. The situation analysis uncovered one key piece of learning was of the historical note. For many years, Ghana relied on night soil collectors who would go house to house every night emptying bucket latrines, which dates back to medieval times. It was a nasty job. But after many of the night soil collectors ended up dumping the waste in city streets, the practice was banned because of the threat to public health. That leads to things like cholera, just like they had in England during the mid-1800s. The Clean Team conducted marketing research to understand the challenges and build a viable solution. The team wanted to know more about what a toilet should look like and how waste should be collected. Some of the initial research involved interviews with dozens of poor urban Ghanaians. The problem was a system-level challenge. Not only were toilets required, but a solution would have to include a way to safely transport and dispose of waste. Adding indoor plumbing and sewage lines was cost prohibitive. The Clean Team quickly developed a prototype toilet, showed them to the people, received feedback, and made further changes. They also asked customers if they were comfortable with the service when coming into their homes, and asked where a toilet would go in their home. The back and forth with real customers identified how the service would work and generated knowledge about how to promote and price the offerings and make it affordable, of course, because again, we're talking about a poor population. After putting all this learning together, the Clean Team launched its toilet subscription service, which we in America would think like crazy. You're subscribing to a toilet, which includes regular pickups and disposal. The Clean Team solves an important problem for tens of thousands of Ghanaians. Okay, thank you so much for joining, and have a wonderful rest of your day.